We've been talking about protein and protein sugars, proteoglycans, protein sugars, as far as it regards the health of the body in general, the eye specifically. Last program we talked about the glucans. Those are long chains of sugar, of glucose, long chains of glucose, which have interesting non-sugar property or non-sweetening properties. When we think of sugar, most of us think of sweet, but sugars have lots of other properties, and when they're linked together, little pieces of sugar, little molecules of sugar are linked together. They're not necessarily sweetening entities, but they got lots of really interesting properties, including building the immune system, strengthening immunity, helping fight cancer, lowering blood fats and cholesterol, and they're also very important for cell health and for eye health specifically. But before we get into talking about that, I want to talk a little bit about this multivitamins article. This, do you need multivitamins? The conclusions are out. The doctors say you don't need multivitamins. This article, these articles that have hit the media the last week, based on a couple of studies that were done and based on an editorial that was written in the Annals of what is the name of that? I forgot the name of that journal. Annals of Internal Medicine. And got a lot of news, got a lot of letters, got Facebooks on it, phone calls on it, and I want to talk about that a little bit, and then we'll continue our discussion on proteoglycans. As some of you may know, the headlines, these provocative headlines, sensationalist headlines, multivitamins are a waste of time, multivitamins are a waste of money, the conclusions are in, scientists say multivitamins don't work, etc., etc., etc. Horse hockey, baloney. That's craziness, silliness, and a complete misunderstanding about what vitamins are. So here's my take on this nonsense. First of all, leaving aside for the moment the flat-out bad science that's associated with these kinds of studies, these two studies in particular, and the subsequent conclusions, I'll get to those here in a moment. Leaving that aside, the most important point, the way I look at it, the most important point, the most important misunderstanding about these kinds of studies that come out periodically about how vitamin E is not necessary, vitamin E supplements aren't necessary, and beta-carotene supplements cause cancer, and now we got the multivitamins that you don't need. What really gets my goat about these crazy sensationalist headlines is the misunderstandings about the word vitamins. We throw around these words, and not so much to you guys who are listening to this program, but folks in the media and people who don't understand nutrition, who don't care about nutrition, throw around this word vitamins, and unfortunately, even healthcare professionals do it too. Doctors do it too. They seem to think that the word vitamin is synonymous with a little pill that you take every morning. When you hear people talk about vitamins, a lot of times they're just talking about this little pill that you take in the morning, as in, should I take a vitamin? Or don't take vitamins, it's a waste of time. Sometimes they'll say multivitamins. Don't take multivitamins, it's a waste of time. So what exactly are we talking about here? What is a vitamin? In my opinion, this way of describing supplements, that is nutritional supplements, supplemental molecules that you take in with your foods, this way of describing nutritional supplements and making them synonymous with the word vitamin really doesn't serve anybody. This way of describing supplements, of making a supplemental pill synonymous with a molecule, a chemical that the body needs as much as your car needs oil, or as much as your car needs gasoline, trivializes this absolutely vital nature of the chemicals of life. That's what a vitamin is, people. It's the chemicals of life. The word vita means life. Amines are a type of chemical. So vitamins are the chemicals of life. And when you understand that vitamins are the chemicals of life, it becomes obvious how saying things like using vitamins is a waste of time, or asking should I take vitamin supplements, is really, really dumb. Of course you need the chemicals of life. Are you living? Well, then you need the chemicals of life. Would anyone say that using extra chemicals of life is a waste of money? I call vitamins life force chemicals because vitamins carry the life force. That's what vitamins do. They are carriers of electronic energy. Nothing more, nothing less. They're temporary holding spots for electrical energy so that it can be used in chemical reactions. That's what a vitamin is, all right? Simple. A vitamin is just a molecule that carries electricity, temporarily holds onto electricity so that chemical reactions can proceed. I call them life force chemicals. When anyone say using extra life force chemicals is a waste of money, Would anyone say taking life force chemicals every morning is a waste of time? Or should I ingest the chemicals of life? Or should I ingest the life force? Or should I ingest the chemicals that my body needs to beat my heart and pump my lungs and detoxify my blood or clear out my bowels in a capsule or in a drink or in a tablet every morning? Should I do that? You think I should do that? Well, of course you should. How can anybody say you shouldn't? All right, I'm going to finish up when we come back from our break. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. We will be back right after this. All right, we are back on The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Our number 855-660-4261. If you want to purchase any of the longevity products you hear advertised on the program or join the Brightside Ben team, you can call the Brightside Ben phone team at 866-735-2470. That's 866-735-2470. Or you can head over to brightsideben.com and click on the Join the Team link. You can also purchase any of the longevity products you hear us talk about on the program off of brightsideben.com. Our number today, 855-660-4261, and we do have a couple lines open for you, talking about this article that appeared appeared all over the media, but it was derived from the Annals of Internal Medicine editorial that talked about how you don't need multivitamins, blah, 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 blah. Well, you know my take on this stuff. Vitamins are the chemicals of life. You need the things. Now, there should be in the foods. And as I was saying before we went to break, the purpose of vitamins, the function of vitamins is to carry electrical energy. They carry electrical energy from foods. This is why it's so important to eat whole foods. And indeed, whole unprocessed foods should be our best source of vitamins. It sucks that we have to supplement with vitamins. But we have to, because the food is corrupt. The food is empty. The food is processed. The food is frankenfood, monster food that never was alive. So it doesn't really have the vitamins, the life force molecules that it needs. Thus, the only real way to get enough life force molecules to run your body, to pump your blood and to pump your heart and to clean your bowels out and to digest your food, the only way to get these molecules of life in enough quantity is to supplement. To drench your body with these things is the ultimate way to get these things into your system, because they're not in the foods. The Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the Ultimate Daily, the Mighty 90, all the things we talk about here on this program, all the things Dr. Wallach has been talking about for so many years, all the things I've been talking about for so many years, involve drenching and saturating your body with these molecules of life. How can anyone, once they understand that these things are the carriers of the life force, the amines of life, vitamins, but how can anybody, once you understand that these things are the chemicals of life, say that taking them supplementally, adding them to your diet is a waste of time or a waste of money? Now, as far as the specifics of these really flawed studies go, check this out. First of all, there's the whole subject of adherence to the program. Well, I should tell you about these studies, first of all. There were two studies. One was done on heart disease and one was done on cognitive function, brain health, and they gave people multiple vitamins and then they assessed them to see how, if there was improvement over, if the folks who took multivitamins showed better heart health or better brain health over folks who didn't take the supplements, and what they found was there was no difference. That's the gist of the studies. But these studies are based, these conclusions are based on bad science. First of all, there were the subjects that were supposedly taking the multiple vitamins weren't really taking the multiple vitamins. At least they weren't taking them all the time. They were considered to be taking multivitamins if they took them 2/3 of the time. In other words, if the subjects who were supposedly dosing with multivitamins skipped 2 or 3 days a week, they still counted as vitamin-taking subjects, and the results were still counted to the conclusions. This results were still contributed to the conclusions. Yes, supposedly people who took multivitamins showed no difference in terms of brain health and heart health over folks who didn't. But the problem was these folks didn't take the multivitamins all the time, yet the results still counted. Did anyone read about that in the New York Times or in CNN or on Fox News? In the second study, as hard as it is to believe, 46% of the participants completely discontinued taking their multivitamin. Nearly half of the participants didn't even participate, yet their results were still counted in terms of conclusions that were drawn. And how much stuff was in these so-called multivitamin doses? Nobody tells you that, right? I had to go purchase the articles. It cost me $20 an article. I had to spend $40 to read the studies to find out how much of the stuff was used. And as it turns out, not very much. In the one study that was done on heart disease, 50 IU of vitamin E or vitamin D was used, for example, 50 milligrams of vitamin B6, one of the most incredibly important heart healthy vitamins there is, was used. Tiny smatterings of vitamins were used. In the cognitive function study, the brain health study, it was even worse. They used a Centrum Silver with nothing, hardly anything in there. Now, what kind of scientist or for that matter, layperson would make an assessment on the value of supplementation that was based on trivial, minuscule, tiny amounts of supplements? Even in the study itself, the authors of the study described as a limitation low doses of multiple vitamins. They said it right in the study. They said, well, we can't really make a complete conclusion. We can't really form a really good conclusion because we use very low doses. Folks, that's right in the study. It's right in the heading, in the abstract of the study. This is not going to be, you're not going to read about this in the headlines. You're not going to read about this in the New York Times. You got to buy the study. You got to get the study from the Annals of Internal Medicine and actually read it. The conclusions that researchers drew were based on patients' reports of what supplements they took. It was an honor system. It was based on memory. It was based on recollection. Conclusions weren't, the conclusions that multivitamins don't work weren't based on scientific measurements. They were based on questionnaires. Does anyone out there believe that a questionnaire constitutes the rigorous standards of the that are mandated by the scientific method? Did you read about this in the New York Times? No. In the Fox News screaming headlines, these articles about no multivitamins aren't necessary. Did anybody tell you that it was all based on questionnaires and people's recollections of what kind of vitamins they took? And by the way, what were the criteria that researchers used to determine whether these things were effective or not? When they say these things weren't effective, what were they basing their criteria on? Well, in the first study, the authors determined that a 25% reduction in heart disease or heart pathology would be required to determine that multivitamins were effective. In other words, if it was 24%, if there was a 24% improvement, they determined that multivitamins were not effective. Now, do you think that if a drug could reduce your risk of a heart attack by 24%, that it would be considered wasteful or ineffective? No, it would be considered a miracle. Yet these guys who did this study considered 25% reduction in heart disease to be the cutoff figure for efficacy of these multivitamins. You want more reasons not to pay attention to these ridiculous conclusions? All right, how's this? Subjects in the multivitamin taking group had higher rates of diabetes than which is one of the greatest risk factors there is for heart disease. Subjects who took the multivitamins were more diabetic than the subjects who took the placebo. The deck was stacked towards disease in the multivitamin group and towards health in the placebo. This isn't a supposedly objective scientific study. And last but not least, how about all the other studies that have been done to show the importance and health relevance of taking an even tiny, paltry, bare bones minimum multivitamin when it comes to health improvement? How about the Physicians' Health study that found that a multivitamin was associated with a 12% reduction in overall cancer incidence? The same study found that a multivitamin, daily multivitamin use produced a 39% reduction in fatal heart attack risks. How about the supplementation study, vitamins and mineral antioxidant study that found a 31% reduction in total cancer incidence in men who took a daily multivitamin. Another study published in the Journal of the American Society for Parenteral Nutrition showed that postmenopausal women who took just vitamin B6 and B2, riboflavin, reduced their risk of colorectal cancer. Long story short, folks, these things are not optional. They are essential. They're the very opposite of optional. I blogged about this at pharmacistben.com if you want more information. You're listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. We'll be back right after this. Are back on The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Thanks for being here, folks. A couple more things. Well, let me just say one last thing about this crazy study, or this crazy editorial. This whole thing is based on an editorial that appeared in the Annals of Internal Medicine. The editorial was based on two studies, a heart study and a brain study that supposedly showed that multivitamin use, a daily multivitamin use, made no difference in improving the prognosis of folks who had heart problems, heart disease, or in improving brain health. The problem is, lots of problems, but one of the biggest problems is they were given just this tiny little dose of nutrients. And then from this tiny little dose of nutrients, they determined that a multivitamin is a waste of money. And thus the headlines, multivitamins, waste of money, don't waste your money, don't waste your time. And we hear this periodically from the medical model. Folks, long story short, vitamins are not optional. They are essential, which is the opposite of optional. Why would anybody dissuade or try to convince somebody not to use these things supplementally? Why? What could be the ultimate purpose of the medical model trying to tell you not to use these things, trying to persuade you that these things are a waste of money? We cannot live without these substances, period. Without vitamins B and C and D and E and K, without the 60 minerals, without the 2 essential fatty acids, without 10 or 11 essential amino acids, you cannot have a long, healthy, vital, disease-free life, period. This is not opinion. This is fact. It's the definition of essentiality, of the word essential. The appearance of diseases and degeneration in response to the lack of these substances, which are easily available through longevity, through the Mighty 90, through a multivitamin. It's one of the, to avoid these things, to try to tell anybody not to take these things, to not have these things in your life, it's one of the great tragedies of our modern lifestyle when they are so easily and readily available. And to have medical professionals who are supposed to be taking care of us, who are supposed to be taking care of our health, to have scientists and the media and other sources that we should be able to trust spew out venom and hostility, and to have them perpetuate this misleading, mendacious dishonesty about the importance, the absolutely vital nature of multivitamin supplementation, of nutritional supplementation, is absolutely egregious, nasty, hostile, and unfair. That's all I'm going to say about it. If you want more information, I blogged about this thing extensively at pharmacistben.com. I put a brief little essay a couple of days ago, and there's a much longer essay that should show up today or tomorrow. Tomorrow on the bright side, we'll continue talking about these complex long-chain sugars and protein sugar complexes for eye health and for general health. We will do that tomorrow. Time to hit our phones. 855-660-4261 is our number. Let's see. Ed in Texas, welcome to the bright side. What's up, buddy?
Hey.
Hey, Ed.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey.
What's going on?
Hey, all right. So I was just wondering, so in your estimation, is there any value in taking these conventional over-the-counter multivitamins, like one a day or Nature's Way?
That's a good,
there's a whole volume of them out there, and I was just wondering, in your estimation, is there actually...
There is value, but that's like saying, is there value to working for the minimum wage? Well, yeah, there's value to working for the minimum wage, because if you don't get your $9 or $8 an hour or whatever the minimum wage is now, you're not going to be able to pay the rent. But is that going to be enough for you to live like a human being should live? No, of course not.
Yeah, of course not.
You know what I'm saying? A multivitamin is the bare bones minimum. It's the minimum wage. So yes, it's important if you're not getting anything else, but it's nowhere near enough. You need to have much more than just a multivitamin. So it's a tough question. When you phrase it that way, I can't really answer that question. Yes, there's value, but not compared to what you really need. Does that make sense?
And I suppose it also depends on your diet.
All of that, but it's just not possible these days to get everything you need from a diet. This is my opinion. It's not possible to get everything you need from your diet. Just one little tiny example: vitamin E. Every study that's been done on vitamin E shows you need 400 international units of vitamin E to get the heart benefits and the brain health benefits and the blood benefits and the liver benefits. The densest food source of vitamin E is probably sunflower seeds or maybe sunflower oil, which will get you maybe 30 IU in an ounce. So you'd have to eat a pound of sunflower seeds every day just to get your vitamin E. Who's going to do that? It's not possible to do that. So it's really difficult to get everything you need from food. Now this doesn't even include the fact that because the soils are corrupted, because the soils don't have the minerals, that means the plants don't have the nutrients they need. So tomatoes and apples and seeds and nuts and all the things that we're supposed to be eating that should have nutrients in them, because the soils, the dirt that these things are grown in are empty, the foods themselves are empty. Then you throw in processing and heating and cooking and storing and shipping and freezing.
Right.
It's just not possible. And Ed, it's so easy to get these things in a supplemental fashion. Now, supplemental fashion, it's not perfect. And I said this before, I'll say it again. I wish I didn't have to supplement. I wish I lived in the Garden of Eden, as we should be, because the earth it should be like the Garden of Eden. The soil should be packed with minerals, and the plants should be loaded with protein and amino acids and vitamins and everything that we need to grow. But it's not. That's not the world we live in. So it doesn't do us any good to gripe about it. Do what we can do, which means get yourself on the Mighty 90, get yourself on a supplement program at the very least, folks. Sip on the BTT at the very least. And you know what? Let your body be a laboratory. See how you feel. Are you going to completely reverse the disease process by taking nutritional supplements? Probably not, depending on how far down the road you are, how far down the rabbit hole of degeneration and destruction of the body you've gone, how far you've gone down the path. But you can certainly do a world of good by doing this thing strategically. And even if you don't completely reverse your degeneration, you're going to feel a lot better. All right, Ed?
And I've read that, I forgot where I read this, but at least 51% of our diet should be on raw food because it's easy on the digestive system and what have you. But
well, it's actually a little bit... Raw foods are very important, but the problem with raw foods is sometimes you need a little bit of heat to break up the foods, and cooking actually, especially cooking of proteins, sometimes can make those proteins, not overcooking though, but slight cooking, slight heat can make those proteins, and certainly vegetable nutrients, heat can break up cellulose to release vegetable nutrients. Slight amount of cooking can be beneficial, but certainly you do want you want a huge percentage of your intake of foods to be raw. That way you get the enzymes and you don't destroy the vitamins and the other nutrients which heat can do.
And real quick, and I'll leave you with this question. I don't know if people have ever wondered this, but I'm just wondering, when in terms of cooking oils, would you consider coconut oil to be the best to cook with?
Best, and butter. Coconut oil, ghee, butter, saturated oils are the best oils to cook with. They're the most stable, and plus the taste of butter and coconut oil is exquisite. So, yeah, those are the best oils to cook with. You want to be very, very, very careful about cooking with nutritional oils or oils with essential fatty acids in them because they're so unstable, although some nutritional oils are a little bit more stable than others. Macadamia nut oil happens to be really a neat oil. It's got wonderful essential fats in there, and it's also relatively stable. But in general, yes. In general, coconut oil and butter.
Yeah, I've read about how coconut oil, that seems to be like a sort of a miracle.
It's borderline miracle. I won't say miracle, but borderline. Thanks, Ed. Got to move on, buddy. Have a beautiful day, Bo. Have a beautiful day, man. Okay. Karen in California, what's going on? Welcome to the bright side.
Hi. I have a question. My husband recently started taking Lipitor again. I had told him, excuse me, how bad it was for you or for him, and he was convinced by his doctor he should take it again. So
okay. Well, you want me to help you with that? What can I do? I don't want to. If somebody, I don't like convincing anybody not to take drugs. If you want to take them, you take them. It doesn't make any chemical sense. It doesn't make any biochemical sense to do it. Hang on, Karen. We'll continue when we come back from our break. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back after this. All right, we're back on The Bright Side talking to Karen in California. Karen, are you there, ma'am?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okie dokie. So I take it your husband doesn't listen to The Bright Side?
No, correct? He doesn't.
Okay. Maybe you want to sneak that on in the kitchen when he's making his breakfast or something.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. Lipitor, like all drugs, just suppresses chemistry in the body. Now, I know I'm not talking to your husband here. I'm talking to you, but Karen, can you tell me why would anybody think it's okay to poison a system in the body? Well, look, what goes through people? You tell me. You live with your husband. You know your husband. What goes through his head when he just takes something, a pill that shuts down chemical reactions? The body's a chemical system. Our lives are based on chemistry. Why would somebody think it's a good idea to shut down a chemical system in the body?
Because his doctor told him that it's so good he believes it should be put in the water even. And
so he's basically doing it because so basically he hasn't thought this out for himself. He's just doing it because the doctor told him to do that.
Yeah,
is that okay? So maybe
right.
I'm not judging anybody. Maybe that's the reason, because when you sit still, you sit on your couch or on your chair and you think about it, you just say, well, why would I want to suppress my body's chemistry? Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense. Aside from the fact that maybe the doctor, who of course is like God or next to God, told him to, other than that, It just flat out doesn't make sense. Look, Lipitor is a statin drug that suppresses the production of the body's single most, at least arguably the body's single most important chemical. It's called cholesterol. Cholesterol is not a bad guy. Cholesterol is a good guy, a very good guy. Cholesterol is what distinguishes human beings and animals from plants. It is the distinguishing molecule of the animal kingdom. It's the molecule that's responsible for our ability to move, for our ability to think, for our ability to fight diseases, for our ability to create the very essence, the very basics of life, which are called cells. No cholesterol, no cells. No cholesterol, no sex hormones, no testosterone, no estrogen, no cholesterol, no vitamin D, no cholesterol, no stress hormone, no cortisol, no cholesterol, no cells, no cholesterol, no neural lining on your nerve cells, on your neurons. What else do we got here?
Right. Yeah.
You can't pick a more vital substance in the body. Yet your boneheaded doctor wants to put this stuff in the water that suppresses cholesterol production. All right, so that's my rant. But what do you do? Here's what you do. Okay. Elevated cholesterol needs to be regarded first and foremost as a sign of dysglycemia. And that's a big word, fancy word, but it's a word that we really need to understand because it's behind many of our health crises. Dys means dysfunction, broken down, messed up, destructed. D-Y-S, messed up. That's all, messed up. Glycemia, G-L-Y-C. Whenever you hear glyce, think sugar. Glycemia, hypoglycemia, hyperglycemia, dysglycemia. Right. Dysglycemia means messed up blood sugar. Messed up blood sugar means messed up cholesterol. It's as simple as that. Okay, we just cut right through it. We just cut through the whole cholesterol baloney. Messed up cholesterol is messed up blood sugar. That means if you want to correct elevations in cholesterol, correct dysglycemia. Dysglycemia, messed up blood sugar, is a voluntary health condition. We got to decide to have it through our eating behaviors. So changing your eating behaviors is the way to stabilize cholesterol. It's really simple. Number one, more protein, less refined sugars and carbohydrates. Get him on whey protein and make sure that he's reducing his intake, not with willpower, but by eating more whey protein of breads, pastas, cereals, fruit juices, cakes, candies, desserts. You know the drill. Fruit juices, right. You know what we always talk about here. That's the number one thing you do, and I will guarantee you, 100% guarantee, if he does that, not only will he lower his cholesterol naturally without drugs, but he'll lower his blood sugar, he'll reduce his risk of diabetes, he'll lose weight, his blood pressure will drop, and his blood fats will drop too, by the way. Every single marker of health will improve once he establishes or once he corrects dysglycemia. And that is using more protein as well as essential fatty acids, which are also important. By the way, cholesterol is really important for the skin. It may be the skin's most important element as well. So once he stabilizes his cholesterol and gets off the statin drugs, his skin health will improve too. In any case,
all right.
Reducing his intake of sugars, refined carbohydrates, upping his intake of protein, upping his intake of essential fatty acids. Then there's the micronutrients that are very important for sugar control, and they are also important for helping lower cholesterol naturally. Vitamin E, 400 IU a day, super important. Coenzyme Q10, 100 to 200 milligrams a day, super important. I mentioned essential fatty acids, that's important. Both, all the B complex, but especially vitamins B1 and B3. B3 niacin alone, just niacin alone, works as good as a statin drug for lowering cholesterol, and it's completely non-toxic. Of course, niacin is one of the most important blood sugar stabilizing vitamins you could ever take. I'd be using a time-release niacin if I was interested in lowering cholesterol, 100 to 200, even up to 500 milligrams a day. Timed release. That's the key with niacin, with high doses of niacin. But make sure he's sipping on the BTT with his timed release niacin and his B complex. Sipping on the BTT can help get you the entire B complex. B5 is also helpful for lowering cholesterol, and B12 is helpful for everything, but it can also be helpful for lowering cholesterol too. Don't forget about vitamin C. Let me see. Oh yeah, chromium and vanadium, the sweeties from Youngevity. I'd be throwing that in as well. So there's so many options here, Karen. They're non-toxic. He doesn't have to go to the doctor. He doesn't have to spend money. He doesn't have to have his blood tested. He doesn't have to interface with Obamacare. There's so many upsides to staying away from the medical model when it comes to lowering cholesterol and using nutritional supplements. It's hard for me to figure out why everybody doesn't just throw their darn drugs down the toilet, get on a nutritional supplement program, correct their health on their own without the medical model. It seems so self-evident to me. Maybe that's just me.
No.
All right.
And then I saw, I believe it was on YouTube, a video about cholesterol drugs, like Lipitor and everything. And it was a study, or I forget. But anyway, it said that the number 200 for cholesterol was sort of just an arbitrary number that the doctor...
Oh, dude, I'm sorry, Barbara. I cut you off. I apologize. I apologize for that, Barbara. Yeah, the number 200, it's worse than arbitrary. It's made up by the drug companies. It's made up by the people who are selling you the poison. There's no magic 200 or 120 or 130. And by the way, the number changes every 5 or 10 years to make the drugs more sellable. I'm sorry I cut you off on that, Barbara. That was my bad. Yes, you're right. The numbers are arbitrary, and it's just absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. All right, CJ in Texas, welcome to the Bright Side. What's up?
Okay, well.
CJ?
Hello?
Hello. What's going on?
Oh, hi. Is this Ben?
That would be me. Got about a minute. What's going on, CJ?
Hi. My question was, my husband and I were diagnosed with hepatitis C over 10 years ago, and we live a really healthy lifestyle. We take our whey, we take our Tangy Tangerine, physically active, and we have a lot of friends and stuff, or family members that have done the interferon, and we're really hoping to not have to do that. And
You want some help with that, some nutritional help?
Yes.
Okay, well, here, I got to just tell you something. I don't mean to beat you up here, and don't take this the wrong way, but when you say we live a really healthy lifestyle, but I have hepatitis C, that's like saying I got smoke, but there's no fire. You follow what I'm saying? So I don't want to beat you up, and you're probably way more healthy than your friends, but if indeed you have hepatitis C, which, by the way, is oftentimes asymptomatic, so do you have any symptoms with your hep C?
No, not at all.
Yeah. So hepatitis C is a virus that lives in the hepatitis C is a virus that lives in the liver. Hepatitis, the hep always tells you that you're dealing with the liver. Hepatitis is an infectious disease, and you want to deal with hepatitis with a viral infection in the liver the same way you deal with any other kind of virus. Viruses live in the body, but they don't pounce. They don't cause their effects until we're weak. They're opportunistic. They wait for us to be weakened. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that your immune system is strong and healthy. Interferon is a drug version of an immune booster, but you don't need a drug to boost your immune system. You can use good nutrition, and you can use good dietary strategies to help boost your immune system on your own. First and foremost, stay away from anything that reduces that weakens your immune system. And that is, most importantly, sugar and refined foods. Sugar is eating sugar or drinking sugar, especially, is the fastest way to lower your immune response, to reduce your body's defensive capability. So staying away from those kinds of foods is very important. And then helping your body process those kinds of sugary foods is also important. Everything we just talked about with Barb is going to be helpful for you. Niacin and chromium and vanadium and thiamine. And I didn't mention alpha lipoic acid, but that can also be very helpful, especially for the liver, by the way. Alpha lipoic acid is a super mega important antioxidant. We're going to be talking about that as it regards eye health here in the next day or two. Lots of things that you could do. Most important is strengthen your immune system. Keep your immune system strong. Stress will also, cortisol and stress hormones will also reduce the immune response. So making sure that you're relaxing, using emotional and mental strategies to keep cortisol down, deep breathing techniques, in addition to all the dietary and nutritional strategies you could do to keep your immune system strong. They're all important, and you could do it on your own, and that's the bottom line here, folks. We don't need doctors. We don't need drugs. We don't need pharmacy. We don't need insurance companies. We don't need Obamacare. We are self-contained healing systems. We can do it ourselves. That's the Bright Side message, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We'll talk to y'all later, folks. Have a wonderful, beautiful day. Bye for now.